Hi everyone, my name is Dave. If you're having any problems with the audio, if you can't hear me clearly, just let me know in the comments below and I'll try to adjust it and change it. Today, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about IELTS writing. But let me introduce myself first. So, my name is Dave, like I just said. I was an IELTS examiner for a long time and I did thousands of tests. I also am a teacher at British Council. I have a lot of qualifications related to teaching English, and I have a very popular website called howtodoielts.com. So for everything that I do, my whole thing is I want to show you guys from the perspective of the IELTS examiner, what does the examiner want you to do? Why are the band descriptors important? What do the band descriptors ask you to do? And then I want to make it easy, simple for you to find out what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what do you need to work on, and how can you get a good score on IELTS. Now, when it comes to IELTS, you shouldn't think of IELTS like IELTS, right? It's just your English level. And if you're moving your English level up and you're understanding what you should do on the test, then you're doing well. Some of the problems that students have is that there are so many different materials out there on IELTS. It's impossible to know what should I trust, what can I not trust, is this a myth, is this true, is the English here correct? So I want to kind of get rid of those myths for you and give you some correct English, some correct ways to practice. In this live stream, so comment any questions that you have below at any time and I'll try to get to those when I can. I'm just going to keep talking now, but I'll try to answer your questions as well. In this live stream, I'm going to go over three main things. So first of all, a lot of students ask me about the band descriptors. So that's task achievement, cohesion coherence, vocabulary, and grammar for writing. What do those mean? What are they? I'm going to try to explain those, make it clearer for you. And then I'm also going to go over the structure for writing an essay, a structure that I've come up with for students to make it a little bit simpler, a little bit easier. And then finally, I'll talk a little bit about a book that I've got coming out later, so stick around if you want to hear about all that. First of all, let's go over the band descriptors for IELTS. These are really confusing. Even for examiners, it takes them a really, really long time to learn them and to know how to mark. For students, it's way harder because the language in the band descriptors is really hard to understand, even though they're public. Let's go over exactly what each one means, okay? So the first one we're going to talk about is task achievement. Let me just put that up so you can see it. Okay, so task achievement, first of all, is for a task 2 writing. We're just going to talk about task 2 writing, not task 1. For task 2 writing, task achievement means, did you answer the correct question? Do you have main ideas that are relevant? That means, are your main ideas related to the question? For example, if the question is about should humans spend money to travel to outer space, that's a real question from the test, you might write that yes, they should because it could help us in the future. But if you write a main idea that's unrelated, like yes, we should because I don't know, something completely unrelated. Yes, we should because in history people did not travel in space. It doesn't make sense. Or yes, we should because it will save time. It doesn't make sense, right? It's completely irrelevant. It's got nothing to do with the question. Not a good score for task achievement. So the first thing is, do you answer the correct question? Do you have main ideas that make sense, relevant? And the third thing is, how well do you support it? Okay? Now, of those three, which one is most important? It's hard to say, but the first one, understanding the question, is where most Vietnamese students have trouble. They don't write about the correct question. They change the question and answer what they want to answer. You have to answer the exact question. This is really difficult. Even me, sometimes when I write a sample answer, I start writing about it, and then I realize that I'm not answering the exact question. It's slightly different. So you have to practice a lot. Even though it's not a writing skill, you have to practice a whole ton about understanding the question, writing about the correct question, which is something that you can get from my book. I'll be talking about a little bit later. But that's almost the number one thing for students to be studying for Task 2 writing. So that's the first thing. Did you understand the question? Second of all, relevant main ideas. This usually isn't a big problem. It's no big deal. You know, you can usually think of a few ideas that relate to it. I have some techniques for brainstorming. You can try thinking from a different perspective. Instead of thinking about what you think, because sometimes that's hard and you feel a lot of pressure, you feel a lot of stress. Don't think about what your opinion is. Think about what would a politician say? What would a child say? What would a teacher say? What would someone from the future say? What would someone from the past say? Think from their point of view, their opinion. So, for example, with this question, should we fund going into outer space, traveling in outer space? What would a politician say? Now, it's going to depend a bit, you know, on what kind of politician, but a politician might say, yes, it's good because it will ensure that we can survive in the future if there are problems on our planet. Simple. You didn't think of the main idea, someone else did. So that's number 2, main ideas, thinking of main ideas. And number 3 is supporting it. This is the big problem in Vietnam. Students write 3 or 4 main ideas in a paragraph, or 2 main ideas in a paragraph. That's a low score for task achievement. 1 main idea, tons of support. Think of it like a child. If you have 1 child, you can give them tons of attention. You can take them to the park. You can read with them. You can buy them new toys, new clothes. If you have 2 kids and you're not rich, then you have to divide up your attention. You can't support the 2 kids as much. That's how I recommend you think of it. Think of it like a child, right? You don't want to have 2 kids in a paragraph. You don't want 3 kids in a paragraph. You don't want all these main ideas. You want 1 main idea, 1 kid, fully supported. So that basically covers task achievement. Your score will be higher if you fully support your main ideas with detailed examples. Your score will be lower if it's very general and you have lots of main ideas in your paragraph. Simple. That's what task achievement means. Okay, let's move on to the second one. Cohesion and coherence. These two, they mean something very similar, which is basically how easy is it to understand your writing and how natural does it sound. So the first thing would be paragraphs. Do you have clear paragraphs? Usually you should write 4 paragraphs for an essay. You could have 5, but don't do that. Just stick with 4 paragraphs, clear. Introduction, body 1, body 2, conclusion. Clear paragraphs. Then, can you use some linking phrases? Now, this is like a double-edged sword, so it's got good and bad. If you use a linking phrase every single sentence, for example, furthermore, this is why, therefore, consequently, thus, on the other hand, on one hand, you're going to get a really low score because you're overusing them. You're depending on them. If you just use them every once in a while, some, like 1 per paragraph, that's ideal. That's perfect. Because you don't need those. What's really important with cohesion and coherence, what the examiner is really looking for, do your ideas make sense? A clear topic sentence. I think that people should, or the governments should spend money on sending people to space because this is the key part, your main idea, because it could help us in the future. There's your main idea. Now develop that. And each idea has to fit with the next one. So you start talking about, you explain your main idea, you know? You say that by traveling into space, we're going to prepare in case if there is a problem with climate change. And then you start to develop that. Develop climate change or develop traveling into space. But each idea, it's like going up a set of stairs, right? Each idea builds on the next idea, the next idea. It's not like a road where you're just turning off, going to some new idea, some new main idea, some new example. No, it should build like stairs, okay? And then there are other things that are important in cohesion and coherence, referencing. That means if you talk about many people think we should go to space because it will protect us from climate change. And then you reference back, you say, this idea. This idea references back. So that's an instance of reference and substitution. There are lots of little ways to link your sentences together. That's cohesion coherence. Is it clear? The ideas? Can you link your sentences together well? That's what you need to do for cohesion and coherence. Do you know what the next category is? The next category is vocabulary. Let me pull that up. Vocabulary, simple. You know what that is, right? But there's two parts to vocabulary. First part is your range. Do you use a lot of different vocabulary, lots of different words that communicate specific meaning? So you don't just say, it is good to send people to space. You say, it's beneficial to everyone. But beneficial is just a better way to say good. You know, you could also say something more specific. It will have future repercussions, future benefits if we send someone to space. So that's a little bit more specific. That's your range of vocabulary, using lots of different words and using them well, you know, to contribute to say exact meaning. The more specific, the better. The more you write generally, the lower your vocab score. The more you write specific examples, the higher your vocab. And the second area, accuracy. Is it accurate? Do you use the correct word or a wrong word? Do you use real collocations or you use kind of a fake collocation? Grammar, the fourth area for the band descriptors, is the same. Range, lots of different types of sentences, not always the same structure. You might use a conditional, a subordinate clause, modal verbs, relative clauses, different grammar. Can you use it flexibly to help your writing? And also, is it accurate? Do you make a lot of mistakes with your articles, with your verbs, with your nouns? Those are the two things. You want to try to balance them. When you're practicing for the test, try to use lots of new vocab, lots of new grammar. Try it, even if you don't know if it's right. The teacher will correct it. Someone will look at it. You can fix it. Try, make lots of mistakes, and then you'll get better. When you go to the real IELTS exam, obviously, cut down on those mistakes. Don't try to use every crazy grammar, every crazy piece of vocabulary that you can. Cut it down a little bit. Keep it a little bit simpler. Okay? So when you're practicing, go crazy. But then afterwards, don't. Yeah, so that last one, so the four areas are, we've got task achievement, cohesion coherence, then we had vocabulary and grammar. Those are the four areas, right? Task achievement, cohesion coherence, vocab, grammar. The better you know those, and you have them in the back of your mind when you write, the more it's going to help. Now, you don't need to think about that too much, because I've made for you a structure that can help you with that. Now, let's go over this structure. Let me take that off. And I'm going to put up for you guys a simple structure that can help you. This is from the book that I've written, that can help you to really bump up your band score and really understand, make IELTS simple and clear. Here's the structure. All right, let's go over the whole structure so that you can see. First of all, this is for your body paragraphs. Don't worry about the introduction and conclusion. You can read about all that in my book. You can see that. Those are pretty simple. The body paragraphs, that's what really, really, really matter. So, first sentence of your body paragraph is a topic sentence with your reason, your main idea. Reason, main idea, same thing. For example, people should fund going to outer space because it will protect us in the future. The main idea, the reason, protect us in the future. Simple. This sentence, don't write a really long one because it doesn't matter that much. It's not helpful. Short, simple. It's going to help the examiner understand your writing. It's going to help your task achievement and your cohesion coherence. Okay? Don't worry about grammar or vocab for this sentence. You can use a lot of good stuff later. This one is all about task achievement, cohesion coherence. Simple reason at the end. Your second sentence, explain your main idea. You don't always need this sentence, but usually you need to explain a little bit what your main idea means. So for example, By traveling into outer space, people are going to be protected in case if there is a problem with climate change in the future. So I've explained my main idea, one sentence. Again, this one, not too long. Also, pretty short, pretty simple, because you're just explaining the main idea. You don't want to waste a lot of time on this. The part that's really important comes next, your example. This is the whole key to your Task 2 writing. If you have a good example, you're going to get a good score. You don't have a good example, you'll get a bad score. The main idea doesn't matter. That can be good or bad. Who cares? But the example matters so much. It's really the only thing that matters. Have a great example, and you're going to do really well. It's very hard, so you have to practice this. For example, you can start it like that. For example, or for instance. Your example should be two things. First of all, it should be specific. Make sure that it's a real place, a real person, a real company, something specific. And then detailed. This is a long sentence. You want to write about this. You want to talk about this a lot. You want to develop this idea. So, for example, many scientists today warn that in the next 50 years, it will be hard to live on the Earth. Okay, that's not great. I can't think of an example just off the top of my head for some topics because it's really hard. That's the point. It's difficult. You really need to, and you're not going to be able to do it by time. Time won't help you. You can't just sit there and think of a good one. But what will help you is practice. Practice it again and again and again with many different essays. Then it'll be a skill. You'll be good at it, and then time will help. Then you can sit on the test, think for a minute, come up with a good example, and start writing. If you don't practice it, your chances are very, very low that you can do that. So, example, specific, and now develop your example, right? So, one way to develop it is to show the result. What is the result of this? So, the result of all this research is that we have started to make advances in developing new satellites. Instead of saying about researchers, I think maybe like Elon Musk and SpaceX, his company would have been a better, more specific example. So the result of this is that Elon Musk has built rockets that can go to other planets and come back. So we don't waste as much fuel, and it helps us to save money while also developing space exploration. So this sentence, longer. This is a long sentence. You're developing your main idea. This is all your points. This is everything. You're scoring all your points here. This is the nutrition, the healthy part of your essay. This is the meat, okay? This is where you develop it. So you want a long, extended result. And then last sentence, you can write some research to support it. Recent research has shown that, that the Earth will become uninhabitable within the next 100 years, and we might need to have options for traveling to other planets, whatever. Don't make your research too specific. Don't say, in 1992, there was a study at the University of Ho Chi Minh City. Too specific. It's a lie. Technically, it's okay. It might not hurt your score, but be safe. Be safe and just make a general bit of research to support it. That's the structure. That's the whole structure. 5 sentences, just like that. Now, when you go to write the next paragraph, you don't want to do it exactly the same. For example, recent research shows that don't copy the exact same phrases, but you can still use the same structure. If you look in my book, then you'll see lots of different ways. Every essay in my book, I've taken 25 different essays. They're all from the real IELTS exam. These are real questions that I've gotten from other examiners. So they're a lot of times on Facebook, you see questions, but they're not the real ones. They're full of mistakes and grammar problems. You can't be sure. These ones I got from examiners. They are 100% real questions from the exam. And I'm going to go through each of them with the exact same structure. So those same 5 sentences. Okay? Your reason, explain it, example, results, and research. Every single essay exactly the same. Now, if you study them, you can start to learn that structure. It'll become natural. And you can get this in my new book, okay? So learning that structure again and again, every essay, you don't have to think about it. You can focus now on your grammar, your vocabulary, because the ideas, the structure, done. Simple and easy. That's the whole purpose of this book. So we'll talk to you a little bit more about the book. Like I said, I've written this book. I was an IELTS examiner. These are real questions from the real exam in Ho Chi Minh City, in Vietnam, the whole country of Vietnam. And each essay has the exact same structure, sentence by sentence. Not only that, so we'll have all the essays, all the structure. We're also going to give you a full Vietnamese translation of the whole essay in case if you're confused about the ideas or the structure, the vocabulary, the grammar, you can learn with that. We'll highlight the key vocabulary and explain that vocabulary in detail. I'll explain it with synonyms, other words that you can use, as well as the Vietnamese translation, in case if you're still not sure what it means. There'll also be some grammar structures after every single essay to explain the grammar that you can use. All these things together, combined, I think make this a really powerful product. Unlike anything else out there, completely guaranteed, 100% reliable, no myths, no mistakes in the essays, nothing. There's not so many. I've seen so many other IELTS books, and they just teach you the wrong thing to do. And the examiner is going to be marking your paper, laughing, giving you band 4 and band 5. That's not what this one is. This one is accurate, correct, what the examiner wants. Take it from me. You can trust me because I was a former examiner. Bump it up, okay? All right, so those are the 3 things that I wanted to go over with you guys. I hope you were able to learn something from this video. You can, of course, comment any questions. If you want some more information, you can write that below. If you have any questions for me, you can write that. If you have any ideas for what I should talk about in my next live stream, or you have any ideas for another book, anything you want from me, let me know. I'm here to help you guys, so just let me know what you need, okay? All right, let's go. Have a nice night.